Hello, welcome to Sugar, Silk and Stretch, a unique boxing podcast brought to you exclusively by Ace Podcast Nation. My name is Ben Doughty.
I'm Gary Stretch, and the silk is missing again. He's
Yeah,
doing,
he's working on the Muhammad Ali production on Broadway.
yeah, good
That
man.
sounds really exciting and interesting because what he's doing, basically, he's the consultant, right, Gary? He's there to make him look like, no, Ali wouldn't have done this, or Ali would have moved and done it like this. And he's advising on the choreography, I think, of the whole production.
What's interesting because I'm in that business. The fact that they've picked Michael, it means it might be pretty authentic. You know what I mean? He's certainly going to bring authenticity to it. That's for sure.
Well, you must have seen in your time, but being a distinguished actor and a distinguished boxer, you must have seen some bloody awful portrayals on screen. I know I have of boxers and boxing in the movies sometimes.
You know what's funny? I have certainly a lot more so than good ones.
Yeah,
It's funny. My editor of my documentary that I made also edited Rocky. He got the Oscar. Sly didn't get the Oscar for Rocky, only the editor. So it was a guy called
yeah,
Scott Conrad. He's married to John Wayne's daughter, believe it or not. But anyways, he's an old boy, lives in LA, and we was talking about editing and movies. And he said, if you watch Rocky without music, it's a comedy.
yeah.
He said it's his credit. Anyway, we talked about the importance of music, but obviously, you asked me ever since some bad Broadway and film. Yes, but you know what's amazing? If you watch Million Dollar Baby, which got the Oscar,
Mm.
he wraps her hand in the movie. It's so ridiculous. Like, yeah, like
Yeah,
you know what it is to wrap a man's hands, how specific and careful.
or
Well,
a woman's. Yeah,
or a woman's, yes.
yeah,
More so a woman being slightly more frail in the bone structure. But yeah, your hands are your career. So it's an incredible craft. Some people fly people in to wrap their hands,
they
But
do absolutely. Remember, Dean Powell used to be very much in demand. God
yeah,
rest his soul.
yeah, and I was watching the movie and it was so badly done and I thought, wow, I mean, these kinds of things they should get right, but obviously but it was something that really kind of spoiled the movie for me. I kind of lost me when I saw that. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm sure Silk's gonna stay on top of them as he does us.
Indeed, yeah. Like I say, it's always a different dynamic when there's the three of us. Whenever we do it with two of us, it's just really chilled. Whichever two of us, or even two of you, it's a different dynamic. There's something about the three of us that brings out the ego and the combatant in every one of us. I think.
Well, no,
Uh,
Ben, you challenged me last time. I've been
yeah,
considering
yeah.
it
Well,
very. But no, it'd be a bit of fun, me and you.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, do you
But
know
yeah,
what? Here's the thing. Before we get into the main body of the show, I was thinking about that. I haven't mentioned it since. I could have cut up highlight reels of me and you getting into that last week, and I could have really hyped it. But I don't really want to because the troll. Obviously, a few of the trolls have been like, "Doughty is so fucking deluded. What makes him think he could even dream of living with Stretch?" Obviously, that's
I
going to be
had
the
some
default.
private emails, people saying, knock him out, he's full of it. And I said, Ben's
I bet you
great.
did. I bet you
I said,
did.
I said, I said he's a cunt sometimes. We're laughing. But I said,
Yeah,
no, it's all in good barter. But the only one thing, Ben, I went for an MRI yesterday.
yeah,
I mean, I'll do it anyway. But I'm training, but I can't. My driving's an issue because I can't. When I turn this way and
yeah.
this way, it's really limited. So, and I want to go to chiropractic, but I'm afraid to because it's spinal injury. They said it would
Mm.
heal. It's healed a lot of it, but I don't. They said don't go chiropractic till we do another MRI and see where you're at because it's been months now. And so I did an MRI yesterday, and it's a holiday here, so I've got to wait 3 days before they give me the result. I'm sure it's fine. Once that's cleared, I will go much more ahead training because I'm a bit nervous right now in case I do something before I get the MRI. In case there's
Yeah,
something.
yeah, yeah.
Once I get the clear, I'll be. I want to train not to fight you, of course. I would.
Just because you want to train.
Yeah, I want to train, and I'm like, I'm on
You always
eggshells.
have done. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm on
I hear
eggshells that I might damage so much. So I'll get that, and then we'll train, and then yeah, we'll come on. We'll do have a bit of fun with
for
38
sure.
gloves on.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I
So
guess
anyway,
not.
Gary, um, the rematch, the somewhat overdue in the minds of many rematch between Josh Taylor and Jack Catterall will come to pass tomorrow night at the First Direct Arena in Leeds. I got to tell you that I am super indecisive and divided on this one. You might have a more clear take on it, but I think most people agree that Taylor should rightfully have lost the first fight. I've heard very few people say that they thought he won it.
My,
Do I recall your take on that?
do you remember my problem with it? I give it to Taylor on a
Okay, yeah.
no.
No, yeah, because we had to think about this, and we made a short of it. You were saying, nah.
I give it to Taylor on a what's the word? Not that he won the fight, but that he tried to have a fight, and I
And you
felt
thought,
that
yeah,
Catterall was holding a lot, and he was so.
spoiled it. That was
I
it.
on merits, I give it. Taylor really would have had a fight, won or lost, got knocked out, or stayed on his feet. He was trying to have a fight, and Taylor was hit and grab, hit and grab. Uh, what's his name? The other guy.
Catterall, yeah.
Catterall
He's a
was
spoiler.
yeah, it was a lot of hold and grab, and it worked, I guess. But it spoiled the fight. I'm hoping it's a better fight. I hope they actually clean it up a bit. I think that the last fight, I could be wrong. I think Taylor wasn't his best. Maybe he had issues. Ben.
Yeah,
You can make the weight sometimes well, and sometimes it can hurt. It's like not that you pass the weight. Sometimes you have a great weight cut. Sometimes you don't. I think Taylor looked like he had a bit of a bad weight cut. I
yeah.
looked at him today at the weigh-in. He seemed alive. He wasn't dead at the weight. He seemed like he was a little drawn, as was Catterall, but he seemed to be stronger this time. I think if Taylor is on his usual form, I think Catterall probably boxed out of his skin the first time, and Taylor was under par. So I think if Taylor fights as he should, I would edge to Taylor this time again.
See,
How about
that's
you?
that's my gut feeling as well. We don't have to make an absolute prediction just yet because we're only like we're only about 5 minutes in. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you, Gary, that I think the best Taylor beats the best version of Catterall. The only thing, if you look at the what they've done since, which is not a lot either of them. Catterall's had 2 wins since then. He beat a guy called Darryl Foley,
Yeah,
a Northern Irish fighter, and he beat the borderline all-time great, albeit faded Jorge Linares in his last time out. And he looked pretty, he looked pretty decent against Linares. He looked like Catterall always looks. I think he's stylistically his blueprint is very much set. Taylor, as you know, after that controversial win over Catterall, he proceeded to get conclusively beaten by Teofimo Lopez. When it's funny, Gary, 3 years ago, almost exactly 3 years ago to the day, Taylor was the undisputed light welterweight champion of the world. And you know what they announced? I watched the Catterall fight, bits of it, before we come on here. And the MC announced him as widely regarded as one of the best pound for pound fighters in the world today. That was Taylor. And how much he's fallen from that kind of stock that he had then, since that controversial win, then losing to Teofimo Lopez. So some people
the
are
issue
suggesting it.
is
Go
on the
on.
slide, right?
Yeah, they're suggesting after 20 pro fights, he's on the slide, Gary. Could he be?
Has he had a lot? Well, you know more than anyone, Ben, history of fighters. What's his amateur record? Has he had a lot of amateurs?
He was a good amateur fighter. He only had about 60 or 80, that kind of region, Gary. It wasn't in the triple figures, Josh
And
Taylor.
the professional fights,
19
wall
and
or
1.
not?
He's 19 wins, 1 loss, Taylor.
How many tough fights, Ben? Excluding the Teofimo Lopez, has he had a tough career?
Well, he has had a tough career so far as he cleaned up a division within about 18 fights. So inevitably, he had tough fights with Ramirez. He had tough fight with Regis Prograis. Uh, I'm trying to think of other times when he was taken to the wire. But fighters shouldn't be done after. I mean, this is the thing, Gary. You mentioned the weight, and you made a great point about you're not necessarily dead at the weight. You might have had a bad cut, where you can still do the weight if you do it properly. But some people were saying Taylor's got to move up from 140, otherwise he's dead man walking. And for whatever reason, he hasn't done that, and this fight is still at 140, even though no title is on the line. So
I hope its ego's not taking place where Taylor is, making a sticking his heels in, saying I'll beat you at 140,
Yeah.
rather than do what's best for him. Only he knows. But I think the biggest issue will be maybe not so much the slide, but the weight, like you say. If he's having trouble and it's taking that strength away from him, then Catterall is the kind of fighter who's strong, awkward, spoils a bit, and that kind of fight grabbing, it does exhaust you, and it could be an issue for Taylor. If he's not dead at the weight, I think Taylor beats him. I think we'll know in a few hours.
See,
Uh,
that is my gut feeling, but I'm getting so. I'm not panicking, don't get me wrong, but I do want my stats to get a little better in this competition because now life is different now. You can't just enjoy the fights of the weekend. You've got to think, damn it, I cannot fall any further behind Stretch and Silk because he is particularly unbearable when he gets it right. I mean, I know I'm probably saying this because he's not here, but
no,
so
everyone
I
knows
I'd
it's
already
public.
told myself my gut feeling was for Taylor. Same thing, more or less the same logic that you have, right? But if you'd have picked Catterall, I'd have switched to that just out of paranoia, quite frankly. But because my
No,
my
I
my,
think
my I'm going to stick with my first instinct was Taylor for the reasons that we've just detailed, and the fact that you're saying it as well makes me feel a little better about it at this stage.
Ben. I think you and I and Silk. I think we're all of the opinion. You know, a good boxer, a complete fighter, beats an incomplete fighter. I think Catterall's got some great elements to his game, but I think a prime Josh Taylor is a better all round fighter than a prime Catterall, in my humble opinion. And I think so. If he's pumping on all cylinders, he should have the beating of Catterall. If he isn't, of course, anything can happen.
What
So
about the boogeyman theory? The idea that you just got one guy who makes
yeah,
it look horrible, all wrong for you.
maybe. But I can. Yeah, I mean, can he do it multiple times? That would be a default on Taylor's. He knows what he's up against now. Taylor. He knows what he has to deal with. He knows he can't stay too close, or he's going to get grabbed. I think Taylor is gonna. If I was training Taylor, I wouldn't go after Catterall. I would let
Well,
him. I would
thank
let
you.
him. I would let him come to him
Let
because
him, because Catterall don't like doing that.
no, and he's then going to be able to keep that distance when Catterall comes. He steps back rather than getting
Hmm.
held. So I think if he's got a good team, which he certainly does, and they've put the head to the paper and broke this down, and he's the fighter we think he is with the IQ that he's had or seemed to have had. But again, on the Teofimo Lopez fight, he looked like he was hurt at that weight, like he
He
tired.
did. He did. It,
And if
it looked
that's
like
a
he had
bit
no legs after about 5 rounds. So
yeah, and when he did have legs, he was giving Teofimo Lopez all the trouble in the world.
So here's the thing, Gary. If there is this possibility that Jack Catterall's best days are still in front of him, and Josh Taylor's brutally after 20 fights might be behind him, that if he is also just a bad style matchup for Josh, and if Josh is dead at the weight but being stubborn and digging his heels in, remaining at 140, those factors are what I have misgivings about because I do not want to lose another point. You can afford to lose another point, But
Well, Ben,
this
if I
is.
lose with you, we're still scaled the
Yeah,
same.
and
So,
don't forget, Silk is trying to take that point off you for Ryan Garcia just as quick as he can. As soon as he gets any kind of green light, he's trying to take that one off you.
well, I don't take it any more of a loss that the B sample came in. Of course, as you know, the B sample is the same as the A sample. I just think that it was interesting, and this could be a play. Let's say he's guilty. Um, I think he's not, but let's say he is. It's an interesting play, the play they're making, because can you imagine if you've got that kind of money,
Yeah,
you could go to a top sports doctor to go and buy every supplement on the market that's legal
yeah,
and find one that has trace elements of the drug that was in him and say I was on this substance on this supplement, and then he's not cleared, but it's not his fault, and he would be certainly
yeah.
less reprimanded if they went out and said, okay, if there is a trace element in some supplements of this
Yeah.
particular ped, then he looks great. Or he could just have the supplements that he has been taking, and if it is in them, because it was such a small amount, then
Yeah.
he's pretty much, what can he do? He's not cheated. He's just been
Well,
caught out with a supplement.
true, but the thing, my problem, like Gary, is, and I'm not saying he's absolutely damnably guilty, but my problem is they always say contamination, Gary. They always say it, and here
No,
we
not
are again.
contaminated, not contaminated, Ben. I'm saying if the supplement has some kind of trace element of this drug, if it's in there without them knowing, then
So
unless
just
it's
the accidental ingestion inside, yeah,
no. If the supplement, they contain multi-vit
yeah,
mineral, they have
yeah,
all kinds of substances, enhancement, uh,
yeah.
legal supplements. If it has got some elements of this that they don't, it's not on the bottle, but there are some supplements that you find trace elements of other compounds in them, which is not particularly
So it would be accidental ingestion, unknowing, unwitting ingestion
unknowing.
because
If
there was
there's
no
a supplement,
declaration.
if there's a legal supplement on the market that when they break it down has got some trace elements of
Yeah.
this that's not on the bottle, and they can prove that, then of course, because the one thing that they have admitted to, it was a millionth of a percentage of something, like it was a very small trace amount, and so and the lawyers are suggesting that the tiny bit amount could be from a supplement that may have something that they didn't realize, and if that's the case, he has, it's a legal
Yeah.
supplement that has trace elements of that's the case they looks like they're going after. And if it
It
and
does,
if
yeah.
it wasn't in his supplements and he did take it, it's a very good idea to go and look at everything on the market, find a supplement that has minor doses
Mm.
that could make and say he took that supplement and he's innocent. So, but I mean, that's the angle they seem to be going to. And it could, and if they're completely honest and they haven't, and they have taken a supplement that has trace elements, then I think certainly it's not enhanced his performance, and secondly, he's obviously not meant to take it. But we'll see. But that looks like, the I think you was the one who printed the lawyer's
Yeah, the
statements.
legal team statements. Yeah, I shared it in our group. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and then he said we're going to go look at all the supplements, break them down, and see if there's anything in anything. But so we'll see. Again, B sample 99 times out of 10 is the same
yeah.
as the A sample, so there's no surprises.
Just want to get this question moved so I don't feel like the viewers are being ignored. Sid Bogle says, "Have you looked at round 9 again of Fury Usyk? Any further thoughts? My view is that the ropes were holding him up, and that the first left hook, so he should have got the count at that point. Yeah, I mean that was my take on it. Sid, certainly the referee in his discretion ruled a knockdown. If you looked at the close-up footage that had been shot on someone's phone or something, Fury definitely fell backwards and hit the ropes, and he'd have gone down if the ropes weren't there for sure.
Yeah, I think it was considered a knockdown as the ropes was holding him up, and that's why he took the
Yeah.
count. The
And
one of
loads
the
of people, so much misnomers, Gary, because people don't understand things, but they like to talk about them anyway. Loads of people saying, "Oh, you shouldn't have got a standing 8 count. There's no standing 8 count rule." And obviously, as you know, it wasn't a standing 8 count. That was the whole point. It was.
No, and the other thing is uh people are stopped on their feet, you know, as you can be against the
Yeah.
rope, 10, 15 shots unanswered, and they can jump in. That's the element of,
People are saying they should have done. Yeah. Some people are saying he should
yeah.
have done.
And he certainly took a lot of shots unanswered, batted from pillar to post, literally. So there could have been justified either way. I was, as you know, I was on Fury, so I'm not, but I have to be honest, I wouldn't have complained if they stopped it,
Me either.
and but the referee did do the right thing in regard to giving him a count as a knockdown. But the other issue, of course, as you know, is the length of the time, which is been speculated to give him 20 seconds rather than 10. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
you know, at the end of the day, Ben, I was on Fury, but uh, I think everyone can't complain that Usyk won it. It was certainly tight, and the most
Yeah.
dominant. performance was Usyk. He pressed the fight more than Fury. He had the bigger rounds, like when the shots were. Although Fury did hurt him. What was impressive about Usyk this time is he really got rattled a few times and
Yeah.
took it and came back.
Oh, I was
Um,
already rehearsing our victory speech after the seventh round.
yeah,
For the show, I really was.
he took a pasting. He looked really hurt, and then he
And
showed
discouraged.
true grit to just swallow it and keep pressing, because and I think his mindset was, I'm going to keep the pace up, and I'm either going to get stopped or it will work what I'm doing, and Fury will crack or he'll exhaust himself,
Yeah.
and he picked it right, but he took a risky game, and it just showed that Usyk really wanted to win, and he pretty much put it all out there. I don't think Fury put it all out there. I think Usyk put it all out there, which leads to an interesting second fight. If Fury gets his game head on, strictly business, stands in the middle of the ring, shows he's the dominant heavyweight, which he's claimed for so long. As he said, Usyk's a middleweight. He didn't box Usyk like he was a middleweight. I think
No.
that for me is the biggest shock, is that Fury was allowed Usyk to push him back the whole fight and box
Yeah.
like he was, on the defensive against a middleweight, as he said.
And,
So
and Usyk said he was going to do that, didn't he? He said, "Don't be afraid. I will not leave you alone tomorrow
yes,
night."
and it was a haunting statement on the aftermath. But I think Fury's going to have to sit down, have a talk with himself, have a talk to his people. I think he's got to clean shop a bit. I think the father
Yes, I know
relationship
what you mean
now
by
is.
that. Yeah.
I think the father relationship now has become unhealthy.
Yeah.
Now it's becoming all about the father, and it isn't. That's not what it's about. And I think, as you know, as the world knows, the corner was mayhem. He's got Andy Lee. He's got uh, uh,
Sugar
uh,
Hill.
Sugar Hill. He's got two great heads in boxing. He doesn't need a third voice in the corner. Plus, whoever else was shouting, I think he needs to, for the first time maybe in his career, and it could be a defining moment for him. Clean shop, take this fight serious, dig deep, and give it, the one clean, big attempt with no excuses, no confusion. If he does that, it'd be a great fight. If he comes back and does the same messing around and fucking around, then he doesn't deserve to win it.
And I
But I
do
hope,
believe we are.
I hope
Go on.
Fury digs deep and obviously, look, people talk and they badmouth him. No one in the world gives more than Fury. I mean, look how he got battered. He never went down. It's amazing courage. He got
Yeah.
up unconscious from Wilder. Like you can't fault Fury's heart. Um,
No, you can't.
so, but I think now's the time where he's got to really, if he's going to do it, he's got to take it extremely serious, get rid of all the excess and go to work, which I think Usyk does every fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I
In the
think,
meantime, the much has been made of the fact that the IBF are poised to strip Usyk of the belt because they want their mandatory challenger Filip Hrgovic to be accommodated, who happens to be fighting Daniel Dubois as part of this 5 versus 5 thing on June 1st. That's next weekend, and because there's a rematch clause for Fury Usyk, it was already in the stars that the IBF were going to take their title away from the winner anyway, and have to maybe Dubois and Hrgovic box for the vacant version, and then the likelihood is Anthony Joshua would fight the winner of Dubois Hrgovic for to technically become a 3-time world heavyweight champion, but obviously that would be nonsense, wouldn't it, Gary? That would be complete nonsense because we know who the heavyweight champion of the world is, don't we?
yeah, and I think it's going to be an interesting. Did they gave him the undisputed belt on this fight? I think it was there, right?
The newly constructed Turkey Al Sheikh belt. Yeah, yeah, I believe so. Yeah, yeah,
I think that would be the belt that starts to take precedent now. If they're smart, these guys, which obviously they are, they've certainly got the money. Of course, whoever wins the Usyk Fury fight, with or without the IBF, is the undisputed, and he'll hold that belt. And uh, I think this will be the start of the fragmentation of the validity,
or,
the validity of every belt. It'll be who has the undisputed. If the Saudis
Yeah.
continue to make this undisputed belt an undisputed belt, put in the
And that
right.
would be great, Gary, because really, all boxing fans and journalists and insiders need to do is collectively refuse to give any credence to the declaration that Dubois or Hergovich or AJ is a world heavyweight champ of any kind,
Right.
based on whatever political machinations go on in the next several months. If we just ignore it and we make a concerted effort not to give it any house room, then that has a certain power. And as you say, allied to the fact that if the Saudis are going to say this is the prestigious belt, which means you have the real one, and they can create a situation whereby that is the only one that has any kind of importance or validity.
Based on who you fight to win it. You know what I mean? And so if they make the matches of the best to get that belt, whoever's got the others, no one cares right now. As long as the
And
right match.
that'd be great. You know, I mean, I know you raised some reservations. You said it because some people have said this Turkey Al Sheikh, yeah, and Don Charles, by the way, picked me up when I called him Turkey Al Sheikh. He said, "Nah," he said, rephrase that, His Excellency. You got to call him His Excellency. And the thing is, he's not even there. I'm just talking to Don. Would you call him His Excellency, Gary, or would you just call him Turkey?
I don't know.
No, me either. I don't know. We've got to wait until we're in that situation, haven't we? But
Yeah. I mean, uh, I believe. I don't believe in bowing, or I think we're all equal. And as soon as you start treating people as if they're above us, I think you get
dodgy
into
ground. Yeah.
yeah, you get into dirty water. I think everyone's the same. I would hope he's. I heard he's a great guy, so I'm not sure if. I mean, I'm always try to accommodate culture,
Yeah,
and
be polite and and
but there's a limit to bowing before men and all the above. So I would if that's what is comfortable being called, and who knows? I'm not in that position, so who knows? I
maybe
mean,
we could have a trade-off. Say that's only possible if he refers to you as his handsomeness or something like that. That sounds better. When we come face to face.
then he'd be lying. But
Yeah.
no, I
Well,
mean, I'm all there to respect culture, and if that's the right thing, I've never even looked into it or thought about it, to be honest, Ben. It is what it is. But uh, if he's a nice man, I'll treat him with respect. If he isn't, obviously, I won't. But he seems like he's doing good for boxing. That's the main thing.
Jab Grab says, have you guys seen the 5 versus 5 recent upload from TNT Sports? Their production is quality. Which one is that, sir? Is it the, I don't know where Gary's gone. He just vanished there. Which one is that? Is that the one, it's all kind of Guy Ritchie-esque, where there's Warren and Hearn playing cards, and there's a woman from Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels dealing the cards, and they give them all these kind of cartoon villainy Guy Ritchie-esque names. Is that the one you mean? Don't know what happened to Gary there, by the way. He was there and then he was just literally gone. I didn't get rid of him at all. Yeah, something just happened there with Gary. If for some reason he doesn't reappear, then let it be said that he picked Josh Taylor to win, presumably more convincingly, tomorrow night, because that's what we need to get an official reading on that. No, the recent upload is like a round table with all the fights and promotions. No, I haven't seen that yet, Jab Grab. I haven't seen it, but I'll have a look for it. But the production is, like you say, the production is really good. I went to that press conference where they announced the 5 versus 5, and also the what we thought was going to be Bivol versus Beterbiev. Unfortunately, that's fallen out now. Bivol defends against Malik Zain, I think his name is. The thing about Malik Zain, who challenges Dimitri Bivol on this June 1st card in Saudi next week, is that my friend Donny Lalonde, who many of you will know as the former WBC light heavyweight champion, he was managing and training Malik for several years. I don't know if he's involved or on board for this fight, but I know certainly a little bit about the guy who Bivol faces instead of Beterbiev, in lieu of Beterbiev being injured. Next Saturday. But no, I went to the press conference and it was really it was exciting. It was kind of creative. It was fun. With the masks and everything. Even though we kind of knew who was behind the masks at that point. because most of the identities of fighters have been revealed. It was something that we, it was the production. Even they even brought Roberto Duran there for God's sake. So yes, it was great. Ammo Williams is another world. I got to be honest, Jab Grub. I have not seen a lot of Ammo Williams at the minute. But I will check him out because I've heard good things about him for sure. Seeing that it's like a gloves are off with each of them. Amon Williams was terrible, complete fool. What was he saying then? I'm obviously going to have to watch this now, Sid. But what was that? What was Emma Williams saying? That was so kind of unendearing. The other thing, so we spoke about Ryan Garcia's B sample coming back the same as the A sample, which now puts more pressure on his legal team to prove, to contest the findings and prove his innocence if they are able to do it. One thing that we didn't mention when Gary was still on was the hair strand test that the Garcia's legal team claimed that as soon as he failed the test, which I guess would have been on the 19th initially of April, because he failed two tests, one on the 19th and one on the 20th. As soon as they were aware that they failed, they did a hair strand test and said they sent it to a doctor. Can't remember his name, but he is one of the leading experts in toxicology and hair strand, drug analysis. And it came back negative, which they were saying that was consistent. They argued with contamination because it wasn't. I'm not an expert on this stuff, I'm at the mercy of what these people try to claim half the time. But presumably, a hair strand test which doesn't come back positive tends to indicate that a urine test which might have been done via contamination, according to them. But as I say, we'll have to see what happens with that. But I think there's a good chance at this stage of the New York State Athletic Commission changing that result to a no contest. I don't think that Devin Haney will ever feel any other way than he lost. I think in his psyche it's a loss and it will remain that way. But I think they may take the official win away from Garcia. But just making a fool of himself, Emma Williams, says Sid Boggle, rambling on in incoherent nonsense. I got to have a look at this now just to see how bad he was, But Jab Grab, you saying you can't wait for it. Yeah, it's a show. You know what? I did apply for accreditation for the 5 versus 5, but I didn't get it on this occasion, which is a shame. But it is what it is. Otherwise, I certainly would have. I want to see what this whole Saudi Arabia fight phenomenon thing is all about, because I've been to big fights in Las Vegas and Atlantic City and Los Angeles and whatnot. Here comes Gary again, and I do want to experience the Riyadh vibe. Okay, here he's back. Enter the stage. Here we go.
Sorry, Ben had a technical issue. Something went down.
No worries, no worries.
What
What
did
was
I
I
miss?
saying? Yeah, not a lot. I was just I was talking about. We were talking about 5 versus 5, which is coming up. Apparently, there was a round the table, like a gloves are off type thing, but all of the fighters are involved. And what the fellas have been telling us is that Ammo Williams apparently came across like a complete tool, like rambling incoherent nonsense. And apparently, he's a really good fighter. Right? Okay. I think he. Remind me, is he fighting Willie Hutchinson?
Don't know. That's the only fight I don't know much about.
Emma Williams, yeah, Emma,
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't know much about him either. So maybe you can fill me and the viewers in. I don't know who he is.
Do you know what? I was just saying to the guys, I've not seen a lot of him, but they say he's got a bit of stardust on him. You know what I mean? Like he's supposed to be one to
Oh
watch.
wait, Ben.
Sorry, Shiraz is fighting. Hamza Shiraz is fighting Emma Williams. So that is
Shiraz is the one they're all talking about, right?
right. Shiraz is no fool for sure, and Shiraz is a banger as
And
well.
whose camp is Shiraz? Warren.
That's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And then of course Hearn's got Wilder. Um,
yeah.
Hearn,
Hearn has got Wilder, and obviously Zhang is on Warren's side. Yeah, yeah.
and then Daniel Dubois is with
Yeah, with Warren.
Warren.
And Hergovich is on Eddie's side, yeah.
It's going to be it's a pretty even lineup, isn't it? Really.
It is, and I think it'd be good to see. let's be honest, right? If you go to a small horse show, and I don't know when the last time you went to a small horse show at the York Hall or anywhere else is, I suspect it might be decades ago. But if you go to a small horse show nowadays, or in the last 15 years, right, Gary, you could pick the winners on one side of the bill with with your eyes shut, and it was that cynical and it was that basic. Don't get me wrong, you might, if you were lucky, see a good main event, maybe a Southern Area title fight or something like that, a good 10 rounder, and it may or may not be a barn burner, but the rest of the card is all just completely cynical. There's the lad, the A side, the house corner, the fellow who sold the tickets that side, and then there's the guy, the journeyman who's come in, whether imported or UK journeyman, who's come in just to make up the numbers. But and you got that to a lesser extent on televised cards as well, where you'd have an opponent and you'd have a house corner and an away corner, and it's nice, isn't it, just to have fights where you don't have a house corner and you don't have an A side, really.
Yeah, I mean, it's been pretty clear over the last, since I know that, the A side wins. It's a big shock when it goes the other way. So now it's getting, at least we that's the only good thing that, well, I don't mean the only good thing. It's a great thing that the Saudis are doing, is that making these fights, and that's why the belts that they've created, given in the light in which the way they make the matches, should be the belt that everyone wants to win.
Yeah, I don't like the look of it much, but I'm not going to quibble over aesthetics at this point when there's something more important at stake. Justin E says the Usyk Fury result was the best thing to happen in years. He said the Saudis kept it clean and the right guy won, even with the fixing and the ref suspect. See, I think the referee's getting a lot of stick, Gary. I think Mark Nelson did an okay job. But he could have stopped it. Yes, he could have done in the ninth round. You said you wouldn't have been shocked, neither would I. I don't think anybody would have been. And you know what? God knows. Suppose Fury had a won via a split decision, there'd be some awful noise being raised then, because people would scream blue murder about the ninth round in particular. Never mind the decision. But
You know,
I don't think the ref. Go
we
on.
say that, but you and I know it's like it goes all ways. It's like when the stakes are so high, it's like the old slogan, "You got to carry me out the ring." But I think that the ref tried to give both side. I mean, Usyk never got in that much trouble, but I think the ref was under the mindset, and
Didn't want to
let's not.
stop it unless he really had to, yeah.
No, and if he had to, he would have. But the on the flip side, um, I just lost my train of thought. On the flip side, it's like Usyk had 12 rounds. Don't tell me.
And he was only
Sure,
going to stop him in one of those. It never looked like stopping
it
him
was
in any
only
other round.
one of them rounds. And a few seconds. Was it a stoppage? Was it not? He had the 10th, 11th, 12th to do it. He had so it's not like he was blindly robbed. He had one. Yeah, that was the best moment in the fight for him, and he didn't finish it. And you can say the bell saved him, but look, he was so hurt, Fury, and then he came back strong in the 10th, or stronger.
Yeah, yeah, he's
Usyk,
stronger.
Usyk had every opportunity to step it up again. He didn't. So I mean, you can all everyone can cry over spilt milk. I think the ref did his best. It would have been
Yeah,
also complaints if he'd have stopped it and Fury's still on his feet. So
yeah,
it is what it is. There was a little controversy, which makes it interesting and it sets up the next one. So, and I think the next one, if it goes ahead, will surely, dependent how it's won. If Fury comes back and clearly beats him, I don't think there'll be a third, but if he comes back and narrowly wins, then it sets up the third. I don't know if I'd even
yeah.
want to watch the third, to be honest. I think the
I think
second.
if Fury does win, the industry tends to think towards Joshua Fury, assuming nothing's happened to
Yeah,
Joshua, nobody's taken him out. Just by
yeah,
the way, just an E. I had Fury winning the 12th for what it's worth. Yeah, because Justin E has said one of the judges had Fury winning 5-1 after 6, ridiculous, and the 12th for Fury. His name is Feldman, and he's been corrupt before. Well, maybe, maybe not, but I scored the 12th for Fury. I thought he won the last round, which was
yeah.
actually quite pivotal. But
And I think the psychology of the viewers, me inclusive, was if Usyk did well in rounds, people gave him to him. It was like
yeah, yeah,
he had that underdog kind of feel that
yeah.
he was shocking the world. And I think some of the rounds, if you actually watch them, clean shots. were close. And I think it could have been a draw. I think I'm not complaining Usyk won. I wouldn't have particularly claimed if Fury edged it, but it
See,
was what it was. The best man won on the night, I suppose, or the
yeah,
more deserving. Let's say whether or not it was clear. He certainly gave everything he had. I think Fury gave everything he had, but didn't make the right fight choice.
yeah.
Um, so the next fight will clarify who's the best.
I agree with you. I think it was that close. Some people are like, nah, 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 nah. Usyk won clear by at least 4 points. And I'm with you. I think it went to the wire. I really do because
I,
one
I
big
do not
round doesn't tell the whole story.
know, and I think people were so surprised at what Usyk was capable of doing that they were slightly swayed subconsciously. But either way, uh, they'll go again if they do. I'd still be on Fury.
Yeah. Um, I think
My,
it's a
my
winnable
honest
fight for
to
him.
Ben is he's very, very like I've never seen him so almost chinny. You know what I mean? They were not
Well, what
huge
about
shots.
that idea your punch resistance comes to an end at some point and you just can't hold a shot anymore? I mean, that happens, right?
Yeah, I mean, he hit Usyk with probably a better shot than Usyk hit him with, and yet Usyk weathered the storm. And Fury, every time he got caught, the one thing that I do think was a massive impact on the fight was the nose. Not
Yeah, I
so,
think so.
not so much handling whether you can't breathe. That's not the issue. I think when you get into a fight, and a nose injury is quite a painful. It's the one few things in fights that bothers you when you get a nose hit. I had it a few times. It can really take you back. It's a discomfort, and the discomfort takes your head out of what you're doing for
Yeah,
a
yeah.
round or two. And then he got so when he first hurt his nose, that rounds out the window maybe, and maybe the next. Then you get used to it. Then he got caught again with it. So that's that. It definitely takes you out your stride. And I think so. Two clear rounds that he got hurt to the nose, and maybe one or two in between, like around them rounds. That's 3, 4 rounds that Fury was not on his game.
Yeah.
He got took out of his rhythm, and that could be the winning of the fight if he can get in the next fight and not get into that. And it also deflates you a little bit when you're so full of confidence and bang the nose goes.
So,
It's like what.
ju- you've just reminded me of a funny moment at a post-fight press conference when Aaron Pryor defended his IBF light welterweight championship against Nicky Falano. I believe it was '86. He had a suspected broken nose, and this was part of the narrative of the fight. And at the post-fight press conference, knowing that there was a suspected broken nose, one of the journalists present asked Pryor, "What round did he hit you in the nose on?" And Pryor said, "Every round."
Yeah, yeah. I'm just looking at Sid's comment. It definitely like during after the fight he was really attentive to, like, it bothered him. And it's a funny thing, the nose. An uppercut to the nose can kill you. If you had a hit upwards, the bone can go into your spine, into
Do you
your.
remember Do you remember the Mike Tyson quote? You must remember it.
No, what was it?
When he fought Jesse Thunder Ferguson on his way up, as a contender, and he'd throw that right hook to the ribs and the right uppercut straight up the middle. That was his trademark, right? Young Mike
Yeah,
Tyson.
yeah,
When he did that to Jesse Ferguson and put him over, he was quoted afterwards, and it was on the TV. He said, "I was trying to shove the bone of his nose up into the brain," is
yeah,
what he said. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. And it does. And if you get hit on the, it's troubling. I broke my nose with Gary Cooper, like third
yeah,
round, and
yeah,
it bothered me the whole fight. And also it, I don't think Fury's looked as bad as mine, but it definitely affects vision, um,
yeah,
and coordination a little bit. Unlike an eye swelling, when your nose gets, certainly my experience, when my nose got broke and it swelled, I could see bits of my nose out of both eyes, and rather
yeah,
than limit your vision, it distorts your vision. So it's a different kettle of fish. If you can only see out of one eye or one eye's down, you still have the same kind of vision, not vision, but when it both sides and you get kind of a blurred vision, it for me it's more difficult to see things clearly. So
Yeah.
if it didn't look too swell, Fury, but it it is an issue. I think the nose was a factor. Took him out of his stride at a time when he was really coming into it. So there's many fundamental small things in the fight which added to the big picture. And um, other than that, I think Fury, other than the ninth round, I think he pretty much could have had Usyk's number more so than Usyk had his.
So yeah, so exactly. I think like I say, the winner, right? The victor goes the spoils and all the rest of it. But I think it was a very winnable fight for Fury, and it still would be if there was a
I think he
rematch.
lost it rather than Usyk won it. I mean, the ninth round, Usyk won. You know, like that was a fight winning round, as you could say. Like you put it all on the line. But I think Fury at a certain point only had it to lose. If you know, and instead of pressing, when he hurt Usyk and start to dominate, he didn't do it. He stepped off the gas, and when you allow Usyk to come to you, and Usyk was throwing them overhand lefts, and the worst thing you can do with an overhand left that comes over like a roundabout punch is lean backwards, because that's when they
Yeah,
hit. Better to lean forward and let it go.
roll underneath it or something. Yeah,
Yeah,
or block it.
go to the shot, and you meet the arm in the middle. But to lean away from it, Fury was leaning on the ropes. Usyk was pushing him back. He would throw a body shot, and Tyson would lean back on the ropes, and the overhand would come, and it was like he couldn't miss him with it.
At
Um,
some point, you, me, and Silk are all going to be together in the same place, and we've got to get to a gym, and we've got to do some of these technical breakdowns as well. We can actually break down physically things that occur in the ring, which we don't fully get a chance to when we do the podcast. But
yeah, I think that's where I mean Usyk he's very sneaky, he's bag full of tricks. But if you watch the breakdown, that overhand, it's almost like a bolo left hand, which he was throwing like circular over his head. That is most effective when you lean away from it. And he was pressing the fight, pushing Fury against the ropes, throwing body shots and jabs to the body, letting Fury lean back, and that big overhand left came. That's what hit him on the nose multiple times and on the jaw. I mean,
yeah,
that was what caused
and
the big trouble.
that's the shot you're going to throw at a much taller guy. That's one of the things you're going to do. Okay,
Yeah.
staying with the heavyweight division, they announced Joe Joyce versus Derek Chisora for July. Just this week, I was actually at the press conference, but I left early. There was three press conferences. There was the thing about the Magnificent Seven, the latest show with the Liam Davies and Masood and the Chantal Cameron and whatnot, all on that same bill. And then there was going to be something to do with Moses Itama, Mark Chamberlain, and Anthony Kakachi. There was kind of a bit of a congratulatory return from Riyadh kind of presser for them three. And then later on, there was a mystery thing where they just said we'll be announcing our next show at the O2. I had some things to do. I had a few clients to see, so I stayed for the first one, got a couple of interviews like with Nathan Heaney and whatnot, and then I left. And then I heard later on that it was Joyce and Chisora were at the third press conference because they're going to be fighting, which I think is an interesting fight because some people wonder which one is the more damaged goods. That's the way some people are weighing it up. I don't know what thoughts you have on it.
I think obviously Chisora's took more damage, but I think that he's also more durable. Um, I think that some fighters when they take a loss mentally, it destroys their game. I think the one strength with Chisora is most of his fights he's lost. That there was a spell he went like 8 losses, and he was the
Well,
same.
yeah, most of it he's lost more recently in his last dozen than he's won.
But it
I would
doesn't
imagine.
seem it doesn't affect him mentally at all. He's a
No, well,
special kind of fighter. I think I think Joyce got the win taken out of his cells.
by Zhang twice.
Yeah, and I think that as that damaged more, it's the mental game. Chisora, you know what you're going to get.
Yeah,
It's just kind of can he continue to take this kind of punishment? Certainly, Joyce hits hard, and Chisora's there to be hit. But on the flip side, if Chisora can get him into a fight and Joyce's head's not right and he gets hit, it's a pretty even. It's an interesting fight to me. It's
I
I
think
think
it's an interesting fight. Some
yeah.
people were slamming it, saying, see a lot of people, Gary. They say, "Oh, Chisora really needs to hang him up," and what does he want? Does he want to be not being able to tie his shoelace in his middle age, whatever, or in his twilight years? But my thing is, right, sometimes people say that have never been punched in the face in their life, and they're kind of virtue signaling a bit sometimes. I think the Silk certainly believes. Even when people were suggesting Usyk should retire now because he's achieved everything and what more, and you enjoy your family, enjoy your wealth, and Silk was saying, no, that's not boxing. You go till you can't do it anymore. You go till the wheels fall off. You eat until you get eaten. That's what Silk believes. So, how do you feel about people almost trying to mandatorily retire Derek Chisora by
I,
public opinion?
I think everyone's got an opinion and they're all entitled to it, but I think it's individual. I think fighters have obviously it's been known in history that there's some that have gone too far, but often it's not about uh they are irresponsible. Often a
Yeah,
lot of them have not been able to retire financially. They've had to push
yeah,
further on. Certainly in the olden days when the money wasn't there like it is now. But I think that when the money's available now, I think Chisora's probably comfortable. Um, I think that, uh, but he's a real specific different. Chisora's an island on his own because he's that kind of fighter. And but when you actually listen to him outside of the ring, he's pretty sharp, you know. Um, so he doesn't he doesn't. There's a lot worse than him still fighting.
yeah. And when you say he's pretty sharp, we need to take into account he's always been a bit odd. He's always been a little
Yes,
bit offbeat,
yeah,
So
yeah. But you know what? When I look at Sharp, it's not particularly the way he speaks. It's like
yeah,
he answers questions very with a dry sense of humor that you've got to be pretty clear to make these
yeah.
kind of jokes. So
I mean,
he does the
he's funny, isn't
delicious.
he?
Yeah, and I
Because
think so he's still very much there. He doesn't miss a trick when people try and have little side jokes with him, and he's on them. So he's still very much clear. I
did
think
you see?
in
Go on.
regard to your question, Ben, with fighters, I think they know if they've got a bit more left, or they want to prove to themselves. If they're
Yeah,
financially stable, they still may think they haven't fulfilled the potential, so they may push it. But on the other side, when people do continue when they shouldn't, if you look at it, 90% of that happens when they can't afford to quit and they have nothing else to turn to. So they
yeah.
they take it to the absolute, squeeze it every drop out the fucking orange because they know when they retire, they're done, and they don't have education, they don't have careers, they don't have enough money to be stable, and so they try and push as much as they can, and yet sure they get damaged.
And which is why the fighters who end up as pundits, the relatively few fighters who get that lucrative broadcasting career, like a Johnny Nelson, they're lucky guys, aren't they? Because when you get that gig and you become a bit of an institution, as a guy like Johnny Nelson has, for instance, and a guy like Glenn McCrory did, that is a major retirement kind of bonus, isn't it? In terms of giving you something to do, a feeling of a feeling of worth, and being close to the glamour, excitement, and still getting paid for it.
Yeah, and I think they're lucky to get them positions because I like both. Glenn, I certainly like as a guy, he's a lovely man,
We'll get him on the
and
show.
yeah, and Johnny Nelson's a good guy, but I think they don't. Johnny especially, he doesn't. He says pretty much obvious. His
Yeah,
dialogue is. I could tell you what I was going to say before he says it. He never surprises.
Gary, I don't like any of them hardly. I like Barry Jones. I think he's insightful. He's good.
Yeah,
And Barry is good. And we spoke to him, didn't we? The Ngannou Joshua press conference, was it? I think it
yeah,
was.
yeah.
But so I like Barry Jones, but I don't. A lot of these guys are nice people, like Darren Barker, Richie Woodall, and whatnot. But I don't enjoy listening to many of them. I must admit.
Well, they don't really give you any incitement more than what, and the fans are smarter than you give credit for. These fans, they see more fights than we see, and you can't fool them. So I never get surprised by most of the commentary people. And so, yeah, I think there's room for someone with a bit more,
Insight.
with a little more insight, maybe a little more sense of humor,
Yeah, yeah,
and a
yeah,
little more honesty where you say it the way it is, rather
yeah,
than round off square edges. When someone's fighting a body, you should say for what it is. I'd say my granddad would beat this fella.
yeah,
They try and make it more competitive when it really isn't, and the fans know that. For me, turns me off. When they comment on fights, like when Prince Naz's son, and Naz is a friend, so nothing against Naz and nothing
yeah,
against his son. But when his son fought that lamb to the slaughter, it
yeah.
was hard. It should have been spoken about rather than
That was
just
one of our
ignored.
first videos with you. I think you'd literally
Oh,
just joined pretty much, and you said, "Right, let's talk about the fucking undercard for a start." That was Usyk Dubois, and that's kind of how we hit the ground running with the stretch aspect of the show. That Gary says this, and then the next week it'll be something else. And your first one was the matchmakers should be in jail.
it offended me, the fight.
Yeah,
It turned me off everything I love about boxing. And the poor kid got in. It was completely, for me, it was, I honestly, would I, Naz, this boy, it's not his fault. And Naz is his father. He wants to, give his son the best, uh,
yeah, it's ground in and
yeah,
rearing.
yeah, and let him get into the game and get settled. He's new and it was a debut, and I get it all. But I would have at least acknowledged, I wouldn't have celebrated the victory as he did, and I would have at least acknowledged, say, it is what it is, and I look forward to my next one. But to go into a circle of celebration, and this poor kid who got the lamb to the slaughter, I thought wasn't my cup of tea. But there's only
Hopefully,
food.
and as I say, the kid signed with Queensbury. I guess that was last month as well. I went to the press conference. It was another mystery. They just said we're announcing two new signings. It turned out to be Chantel Cameron and Adam Hamid. And the bonus for me was meeting the man himself, the Prince. I didn't expect him to be there, but
I think
obviously,
he's got a rough ride, Ahmed, because unlike Ben
yeah,
and Eubank juniors, uh, they can
yeah.
somewhat step into that arena, whereas Naz was so different, and so there's going to be a lot of expectation on this kid, and if he ends up normal like everybody else, it's not what people are going to want to see. They want to replace Naz, and that's never going to happen. So
Yeah, well, I've said this many times when we get into the discussion. I've probably said it on the show. I've scarcely ever seen a son of a world champion be better than his dad. We've seen professional boxers who've had sons who've gone on to be much better than them, like Floyd Mayweather Senior and Floyd Mayweather Junior. No problem, but it's quite rare to see, well, very rare to see a world champion who was established who has a son that surpassed him and was better than him. I mean, I argue maybe Corey Spinks was better than Leon Spinks, but people can argue with me and say no, he's still got a bigger win against Ali than Corey's got, and he was Olympic gold medalist too. So you could even argue that Corey Spinks wasn't better than his dad Leon. I think as a pro he was more consistent and maybe that bit more talented. But do you see what I mean? But
yeah,
what I'm saying anyway, Gary, is that's literally the only example I can think of where I could even argue the case. Every other case, it's like no, he wasn't as good as his dad. When the dad's already been to the mountaintop, that is right.
right. No, it's very hard. Like you say, it's a very rare occurrence when it happens. I just saw a comment flash up and down about Dave Allen.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, Dave Allen, for me, I like listening to. He's pretty honest, and
yeah.
he says some interesting things that he says things often that people think, but they'll verbalize it. So I enjoy watching him because they're
Well,
just raw honesty.
do you know my first experience of Dave Allen? Big Larry, who I was training, and we was only on the road. We didn't have big expectations. He was a journeyman at that point, Larry Olabamiwo. But we fought Dave Allen up in Newcastle, all right? It must have been 2000. I mean, it was 13 or 14. It was about 10 years ago, all right? And Larry pulled out with a bad arm after 2 rounds. He's as was his wont. And Dave Allen, who came into the ring to the drugs don't work as a little pop at Larry's Peds history, which was quite funny. Then it was a bit of a disappointment because he's on his own patch and he wanted to impress. And you don't really impress when your guy pulls out with a bad arm. It stops you getting the victory you should have had. But in any case, he walks over. When you say when you touch gloves, as it were, with the opponent's corner and all that, and shake hands, whatever. And he came over and he said, "But I didn't know him." And he said, "Ben, your Facebook page keeps me entertained for hours. Keep it up." And I just thought he was a really cool guy, just for coming into that ring walk song and then saying that afterwards. So I like Dave, and
Yeah,
he's had a good career, hasn't he? He has had a good career. He's maximised his personality, which is what it's about, particularly in this era, as much as it ever was. About personalities and being sellable. And Dave was very sellable, and people liked him.
and he has. And what I like about him, he's took matches on a regular basis where he's probably the slight underdog in most of them.
Yeah,
So
once he got out the prospect stage, yeah.
yeah, and so he's not been particularly managed well as far as to, but in the honesty of his career, he's earned money because people like him.
Exactly that, and I think, I suppose it has ever been thus that has been a bonus. I mean, Billy Walker, you remember in the '60s, was a hugely popular crowd pulling fighter. He never won a British title, but he was a champion crowd puller, because I guess because he was a personality, because he was quite a good looking guy, and because he was entertaining in actual fights, So
I tell you
I guess
what's
there's
an
nothing wrong with that.
interesting career. Is it Fraser Clark? Not Fraser Clark. Who's the kid, the young heavyweight, the bull?
Johnny Fisher, yeah, Johnny
Johnny
Fisher,
Fisher's got a bit of a fight on his hands next, right?
Alan Babbage, the Savage, yeah, yeah.
You know that Johnny Fisher's got. He's a pretty straightforward. What you see is what you get. Uh, Great. His family support him, and he's like an honest heavyweight. He's a bit of a throwback, really. And so I respect Johnny. Who else would take Babbage? Is one fight you don't need.
Yeah, and for Babbage, it's going to be the kind of he's in the last chance saloon as far as he's concerned, and he'll be looking to decapitate Fisher, won't he, and put himself
Yeah.
back in the mix. So,
It's
so
an
yeah, it is a
interesting
good
fight.
fight. It is a good fight. As you probably know, Mark Tibbs trains Johnny Fisher, and Jimmy Tibbs is down there in the gym as well, 3 days a week at least, and putting his little pearls of wisdom in there too. So that will be it will be an interesting fight.
Babbage is not.
But,
He's a light heavyweight, right?
well, no, now listen. What he was, Gary, he was a heavyweight, and then he took advantage of the Bridgerweight division. You see what I mean? He
Yeah.
he
So he's a
he.
smaller heavyweight
Yeah,
than
yeah,
most.
yeah. I see. That's what you meant. I understand that. Yeah,
Yeah.
but exactly, he's small enough that he's boxed at Bridgerweight, and he did. Did he win the Bridgerweight title then lose it, or did he lose the challenge for it? I can't remember. I should.
Yeah.
But do you know what I mean? But he definitely got beat last time out for the Bridgerweight title. But I don't recall if he actually won the title first and then was relieved of it, or whether he had a challenge for which he was stopped in.
Yeah, because
Can't see Fisher losing that one. Oh,
I think they've made the match on the premise. I think it's an educated. He lost the challenge, Sid says.
yeah,
Um,
good job they know more than we do. It
yeah,
helps us
yeah,
through here. They're
so
like our researchers.
fans are smarter than we are for sure. But it's an
Yeah,
interesting. I think they've made the match with Johnny Fish with Babbage on the premise that a good big one should beat a good little one. I think that
yeah.
and it'd be
My God, what
interesting.
would the other fellas say about that, Gary?
Well, there you
Oh,
go. I continually have this argument with him. He talks
because he's
about.
digging us out the other day. He tagged us both saying, "My two S3 buddies don't see that my Delphic wisdom is that the weight's got nothing to do with it." And you were like, I was a bit mild in my response. You were like, "Michael, shut up, for God's sake.
I
Stop
said
being
you're
delusional."
delusional because Ben. He talks about the 30-pound difference. I and you and the public know when you get above 200, it gets
Not so
diminished
important.
considerably.
Hey,
If
Valuev, for God's sake.
come
Hey,
on,
Valuev.
because above 200, everyone's big. But like when you're talking of a 140 fighter fighting a 168 fight,
75 or
it's
yeah.
ridiculous. It's madness. So, I don't know where he makes his own rules, and he's so knowledgeable, but he's also so fucking
Quirky.
stubborn,
He's
and
quirky and stubborn, yeah.
yeah, and I think half the time he just rather than be right, he'd rather prove us wrong, and in
He
doing
is he
so,
is naturally contrary. I mean, he doesn't. I mean, he jokes about that because that's Dennis Rappaport, the legendary manager of Jerry Cooney and such. He was the one who first coined that term. He said Michael is a very nice young man, but he can be something of a contrarian, and it's caught on since then, and that's what we call him now.
he has the devil behind the eyes or the eye, and
Yeah, yeah.
I love him for that. And he provokes and he prods, and it's all good fun. But I think if he had a son who fought at 154, he wouldn't be putting him in with a 168 fighter uh, too often.
No,
So let's leave it there. Uh,
indeed. But
what's this question, Ben?
it's not really a question; it's a statement. Just an E. I'm not sure how I'm supposed to be saying that, but the account is called Just DYNEE. Says I used to watch preliminaries starting at 1 a.m. until main cards at 6. I'd be slashed and ready for the big fights with Hearns, Duran, Leonard, McCallum. Yeah, But I mean, did you ever go to the cinema, Gary, to watch them big fights in the 80s? Like Hagler Hearns and stuff. Did you go down there, Leicester Square Odeon, to watch
I
them?
think I think I was at Leicester. I was at the Leicester Square for Hagler Leonard.
I was there. I was there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was there with you then. Yeah,
So many people I've met in the last several years or the last few decades, but we were all in the same place at the same time. Spencer
yeah,
Fearon was there. Chris Oko was there. I mean, there's a lot of us who were there. We may not have met for like 30
yeah.
years later, but
I was there. Yeah, I think
they
that's
were
the
so
only.
excited.
Oh, I
But
think that's the only theatre fight I went. Yeah,
yeah, April the 6th, 1987, Monday night. It was a Monday night. But
can't remember, but I was there. Yeah,
yeah, Harold Graham was there. Kirkland Lang was there. Do you know what though? Kirkland Lang didn't seem to have a seat because he was sitting in the aisle. I reckon he just jibbed in.
really.
Quite
Yeah,
honestly.
I did enough rounds with Kirtland. He died, right?
He did a little while ago, a couple of years ago. Yeah, yeah,
He
yeah.
was fun. He was a nice guy actually when you got to know him.
Lovely guy.
Unusual. Yeah, he was a one off, a complete one off. But I sparred lots of rounds with him, he had some good work. And he
I
was a
bet.
good guy. You got to know him. At first it was needle, and then after that was friendship. And we used to have a laugh. And he had a great sense of humor. Um, like a very dry, you'd have to listen, you'd have to pay attention to, but he was fun. Um, but yeah, he was well. I mean, people rated him, but on the big scale of things, I think he was probably underrated because he beat Duran.
He beat Duran, and he beat Duran in 1982 when
He was right. Yeah, yeah.
I wouldn't say it was his prime, and he was in a bit of a career slump, but he beat he beat Duran in '82 when Duran still had so many fantastic things he achieved after that. So that's all you need to know. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think you know what I think. That he didn't even believe in himself, Kirk, from by the sound of it, going into that fight. He said, because he said his legs were shaking at first and he was moving to try and stop his legs shaking. He was going on his bike. And he said after 2 rounds, he thought, I reckon I can beat this guy, because Mickey Duff had said that Don King didn't speak to him for a year or two after that. He said, because John King had said to Mickey, this guy Lang, he won't actually beat Roberto, will he? And he said, no, don't you worry about that, or something like that. And obviously he did beat him.
On
Said
his
Bogan.
day, he could give anyone trouble. The Colin Jones was 9 rounds both times, right?
It was, yeah, that was spooky, huh? And it was. I mean, I love. I wish I could find that whole fight on either those whole fights online, Gary. I've only ever found around here and around there, or the finish or highlights. I actually love to find the Jones versus Lang fights 1 and 2 in their entirety because I've
I
never been
watched.
able to watch them completely.
I don't know where. It's been years and years since I saw them, but I watched them a few times way back in the day. I did have copies somehow, Maybe he had a VHS of
Yeah.
it. I don't know, but
Well, remember, you were the one who had the magic fight. What was this magical fight that nobody else had seen? Oh, yeah, sorry, Simpson. I don't want to get into it again. It was Simpson and Minter. That was the one. But let's not even go there. Talking to
yes,
Simpson. Talking to Simpson.
he was
Sid
supposed to
Bogle
come
said,
on.
when is Simpson coming on? Unfortunately, I think it may not happen, Sid, because I spoke to him today and he wasn't answering the phone for the whole week for whatever reason. I guess he was busy. Then when I called him today, he just said, "Oh no, no, sorry, I should have called you, but no, I can't do it. I can't." Yeah. And I said, "Well, maybe we can reschedule." It was like, "Yeah, maybe," but it was one of them things. I think Sibbo. I've already got one interview out of him, which is the most watched interview I've ever done. It's got like 372,000 views at the minute and counting. But I think that was the best I got out of him because he doesn't really do interviews, and I don't think he wants to do interviews. Um, he just doesn't care for it. Doesn't want to talk about himself.
What does he
He
do?
does.
He's a successful businessman, right?
Yeah, I
He
think
made,
so. Yeah,
made
I've
a
been
lot of
told that.
money
Yeah,
outside
yeah.
of, but I think he had if I'm not wrong, I think he had a trucking business.
Something like that. And I think he's done well. I think he's all right. I think he's solvent. Yeah, Gary.
Yeah, I think he had a very successful truck business where he ships, moves things, frozen food, and a big shipping trucking business that was extremely successful. So I'm very happy about that. But how was he when you spoke to him? He's all there still, right?
He's all there. Yeah, he's all there. He just and he's always very pleasant, and he knows me from the previous things we've done. Like we did that interview back at the Xboxes about 5 years ago, and we also he was involved in this Rocky Campbell. There was a heavyweight called Rocky Campbell from Leicester in the '70s, and I did a kind of testimonial night for him, not sometime last year, and Sibbo was involved in that. But regardless,
What are you weighing, Ben, these days?
so again.
What's your weight?
Me, like 88 kilos at the minute. But to be honest, when I'm really doing, when
80
I'm being good,
kilos.
I'm 81. I'm like 81 when I'm being good.
And what are you now? 85?
But no, about 88 right now as we
I'm
speak.
85. I just weighed.
You're 85, yeah? Yeah, you're bringing it back. You want to finish on that note.
No,
Okay,
no,
so
no. I
don't
just
lose
no, I
too
got
much
weight
weight.
today just to check, and I was 85 kilos.
So
So,
we're in the right ballpark, yeah? The
oh
weight
yeah,
doesn't matter. Gary,
height
my
and
trainer,
weight
the
doesn't
Silk,
matter.
my trainer, the Silk, says weight doesn't matter. He says your height's no advantage. He says your reach is no advantage. So, and as long as I've got 50-ounce gloves on, you've got no chance.
There you go, and you're gonna tie both hands behind your back, so don't worry.
Yeah, yeah. But
All right, on
all
that
right.
note, Ben.
On that note, listen. Okay, so just quickly, Gary, you're going with Taylor. So am I. So we're gonna. Michael's not getting to pick because he's not here. He hasn't given us a video, so there's no way he's gonna get jump on this later. All right.
Before you hang up the gloves, I'm going on Taylor. Are you? Can you give us your prediction how you see the fight going? Me, I know you're going to go with Taylor, but do you see how if you could draw a picture, what are your thoughts on
Well,
how?
if I'm right and he does win, I think Taylor will be more positive this time. He'll be a little busier. I would like to see him do what you suggested, like have the guy reach for him a little bit, and because Catterall literally sits on his back foot and waits for a guy to come into his range and to make a mistake, right? And they say he grabs a guy, he's got that constantly nagging jab that's just always like this, Catterall, right? I would like to see Taylor counterpunch a bit more and move a bit more and have the guy come to him a little bit more. Or else, if he doesn't do that, then be very positive, be very busy, very aggressive. Don't be, caught between two stools. But either way, I see tentatively, I see a more impressive, sharper Josh Taylor, revitalised, hungry, eager to prove a point. And I think Sid Bogle thinks Taylor may get stopped. I think Taylor will remove the doubt this time, but I'm not at all sure about it. I can see the other scenario as well, as I said to you, but that's what I'm going with.
I see Taylor winning a cleaner fight, a sharper fight, and a possible stoppage if it goes the way I think it. If he can get into the right, if he can get the right tactics, like you say, and make him don't go to him, don't go to Catterall. If he can get Catterall out of his comfort zone, make him counter punch him, stay on the, if Catterall's not coming to him, take a walk, really play a game. And if he can do that, I think he could have. I don't think Catterall's got the ability, meaning the variation to adjust that much.
Yeah.
So whereas I think Taylor's a much more adaptable fighter, and I think if with Taylor's team and the world level he's been at, I think it'll be a matter of now. This could be a really good set precedent for when two fighters go away and do the homework and do the work, how it can turn around dramatically. This will be an interesting dichotomy. This will be a dissection of if Taylor can execute that plan, it will show what we can do when we go back to the drawing board. If we're world class.
There you go, exactly, and you have to justify that. As a former undisputed light welterweight champion of the world, you certainly should be. Just quickly, Sid Bogle said, "Could we get John L. Gardner on the show? That would be amazing. We'll give it a try. We'll throw a line out there, right, Gary? But
Yes,
either
sir.
way, we'll be back Sunday with the other fella, the funny one who looks a bit like a pirate. It's still annoyed him when somebody said, "What, we're taking notes from a gay pirate now?" Don't say that to Michael on the show. He doesn't like it. Guys, thanks for tuning in. You know the drill. Like, subscribe, support, tell your friends. We'll be back Sunday. Gary, it's been a pleasure as always.
Thanks, Ben.
Peace out.
Night,
Cheers.
guys.